Hi, this is Kevin Sandy coming again, and we want to continue talking about, you know, helping youths and transforming youths into, you know, the respectful, the purposeful, responsible youths that they can be and they're created to be. And we know, yes, presently there are a lot of frustration taking place, there are a lot of distractions and disruptions taking place. And being involved in technology myself, I had to learn how to conquer the addiction of technology. And a lot of people don't know how to, especially youths. They're not aware of the deception that we spoke about in my first video that is there with technology, and of course the deceptions that are coming. Now I mentioned that there are five core principles that need to be understood. All right. And last video I spoke about the spiritual versus the physical, the behind the scenes things that are happening which the youth's not aware of, because as far as they're concerned they function according to their five senses, what you can see and taste and touch and feel and hear, right? But we know that there's more to life than that. So yes, there is the spiritual versus the physical, and there's that challenge that need to be corrected and need to be you need to be able to show them how it's done, how things are done, what is actually happening behind the scenes. But I want to talk today about one of the other core principles, which is language versus idea. And that means that the present education system focuses on data. So data in terms of intelligence to be able to construct sentences and do mathematical formulas. Uh, the challenge with the way it's been done is that a lot of it focuses on data that's analyzed to get more data. So it's not so much data that goes to solve a problem that is happening in society. Because what is happening is, and what is happening is that even though some of them say is because they're working on solving a problem, what is happening with the issue is they're focusing on getting a theory of solving the problem, but not actually solving the problem. Right? So people get PhDs from a theory that if you implement this, it will solve this problem. But the problem still exists. So they will do some research and get some data and be able to show you a piece of information that will work under certain conditions. So those conditions have to be right for that to work. So it's not real. It's not in real life where the conditions are arbitrary, right? So that's the challenge we're having with language, which is language in terms of English and Spanish and French, and language in terms of how we do things by the letter of the law, so to speak, instead of what is really supposed to be happening here? What is the idea behind this? How are we supposed to think about this? What is the right perspective about this issue? Whether the issue is a relationship, whether the issue has to do with economics, whether the issue has to do with agriculture, whether the issue has to do with food, whether the issue has to do with logistics or transport. Asking the questions to find out the reasons for the things we create, produce, ideas we come up with. Why should we create this? Why is this important? Or why is this problem taking place? Always, right? In Trinidad and Tobago, we are flooding all the time. And they tell us that, okay, the flooding is caused by people cutting down the trees on the hills and building houses. Or people are throwing bottles in the drain and clogging up the drains. Okay, data. What is supposed to happen when the rain fall, and what can we do to stop the flooding? And is there a process, a program that says, okay, part of the program is eliminate everything that deals with people building on the hills. Eliminate it, stop it completely, right? Because the idea behind the study or behind the information is supposed to be, we need to solve the problem, not just come up with the idea of how to solve the problem, not just come up with the data or the information written in a book how to solve the problem. No, we need to get it solved. So youths are seeing this. They're seeing people focus on information. Like, for example, a big thing that happens with SEA, which we used to call common entrance a long time, is that they focus so much on getting a good grade and getting into a good school at SEA, that the youths become frustrated. They have health challenges. As a matter of fact, they have this thing where you take out your child just after because the stress that they've gone through for the past months or year just to get into a good school is overwhelming. It's just crazy, right? That becomes more important than the child's purpose and giftedness. So what happened, the data of where you land in the grades becomes more purpose of who are you? Why do you exist? Where are you supposed to be? Or how are you supposed to function? So you see what's happening there? The language in terms of what we look at data becomes more important than purpose, or become more important than the idea of the person, the thoughts of who this person is and what's their purpose, why did God create them, what they're supposed to function, what's their potential, what's their capability, what's their giftedness, right? And of course, a lot of things have been thrown around when it comes to giftedness. When they see a young child, playing a keyboard or some instrument, effortlessly, like a master, and they call that gifted, right? Or being able to play a sport at a young age, and they call that gifted. So let's correct that one time. Everybody's gifted. Some people just open their gifts later than others. But everybody, as a matter of fact, is a genius, and that is a study. That is one of the studies I bring in my program called Purpose into Profits, which is helping people to find their work so they can never get fired. You find your work so nobody can fire you. You know where you belong. You know where to go, what direction to go. Because God, who created you, put that inside of you, and you know how to line up, and you're going in that direction, right? So you leave or you move according to His will, not according to what the economy says. All right, that kind of thinking is very challenging for the normal youth worker teacher. But let me tell you something. You have seen the history of people getting good grades, getting good jobs, and then the company closing down. Or the government decide to privatize, right? Or some disaster happens and the person is unemployed. You've seen it over and over. So why are we still focused on getting that data right? But when you focus on the idea of the person, of who the person is, what it is to be a human being, what is to be a human being of purpose, a human being with identity, with potential, with destiny. When you focus on that, it doesn't matter what the economy says. You maneuver, you pivot, you divert, you detour, but you still the person. It's like birds fly. When the weather is changing in certain countries, the birds fly to another place, but they're still flying. But that's their purpose. They're always flying. They're designed just to fly. Right? So they're just moving in a different direction, but they're still flying. They don't become something else. They don't become someone else. They are who they are. And that is what we need to realize. The idea of us being born, being created, is more important than the data that is available about our history, our titles, our grades, and our performance appraisal. More important than that, right? Because there's a a joke. I think it's Albert Einstein or somebody who said it. He said, "Everybody's a genius, but if you try to judge a fish by how good it could climb a tree, I mean, you definitely on the wrong foot there, right? Because it's not built for that. Right? And that's a challenge. We need to get out of that. We need to get out of that. So we need to get people in the place where they belong. The scripture put it like this: train up a child in the way the child should go. But so you need to find out the way. What is the way this child should go? This youth should go? What is the area of operation? What is the product that they're supposed to deliver? What's the solution that they have built into them? Why God allowed them to be born, right? Remember, we can't create people, right? We don't choose when a child is born or not. God does that, but He does it for a reason. But the birth, how the birth took place is not the problem, is not the issue. The fact that the person was born is the issue, right? I know a lot of people are frustrated about their birth, whether it was through destructive means and they came into the world, some crime happened. That doesn't matter. It might be painful, yes, but let me tell you something. It is glorious because you are here to create something and produce something out of that mess. And God is the one who has such power that he can create a message out of your mess. So your parents is not the one who allowed you to be born. God is the one who allowed you to be born. So you got to get back to him as a youth, right? So if you're a youth worker, parent, or teacher, you're working with youths, you might have that challenge and you're struggling with that. You could deal with that, and then through your dealing with that and getting results through that pain, through that frustration, getting over that hurdle, and then getting the results, the success, the answers, you can now help other youths come out of that same pain and get relief as well. That's what's glorious about this. So because I was able to help youths because of how I grew up, because of the challenges, because of the different families and that sort of thing, right? So it's not a curse, it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing. But it's just that it's a blessing from God's perspective, not from our perspective. So we have to learn the ideas of God. We have to learn his perspectives, his thinking, the way he thinks. Because the way we were trained to think on the earth is corrupt, is disastrous. We have seen it, we've seen the results of it. Now, it may seem good. We may seem like what we call good is not really good. In fact, Jesus said it. What do you call good? There's only one good. Because we think of some things as good, but the end is death. So what we think is good is actually harmful down the road. But God sees the whole picture. So he knows what's good and he knows what's really evil, right? So we might think that, okay, how can a good God allow this to happen or allow this person to be born like this? That's because he have a good plan in his mind, and he's the good God. He's the best. He's the greatest. He is the all-wise. We are not even as wise. Our wisdom can't even compare, right? As a matter of fact, the scripture says it like this: the foolishness of God is wiser than the wisdom of men. So think of the wisest wisdom or intelligence. So let me say intelligence, because intelligence can't compare with wisdom. But the wisest ideas and strategies men can come up with. The foolish things of God, little things, are bigger than that, more productive, more powerful than that. That's how great God is, right? So we want to get the children in the place where we understand who they are more than how they perform, right? We want to get that. And that is the process of inquiring from God. Who is this child? What is he supposed to be? Who is he supposed to be? What is there? Reveal to me what is in this person that I don't know. That's the potential, the power that God put in them. You want to find that, all right? So that's the process of dealing with that challenge of language or things that are lettered versus the idea, the thinking behind the things, all right? I hope this helped you and bless you. Let me hear your comments, ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer. Have a good day.